Solomon, and this is a podcast called The Rant Network, where we peel back layers on a multitude of topics without holding back a thing. It's about raw, unfiltered dialogue that serves as an outlet to voice opinions, exchange ideas, share experiences from every corner of life. But it seems the last several months have been focused around the red versus blue in multi-dimensional facets. As we dive into the heart of current events, pop culture, politics, and quirks and experiences, whether we're venting over life's daily frustrations or tackling some really big questions in the world. This is what the Rant Network umbrella has been created and what it's all about. Get uncomfortable as we join and engage in a journey discussing the newest topic, how one network that was the only network other than Fox to have a Republican debate fire the only person that they hired as an anchor that had a difference of opinions. It seems that if you're not a friend of mine, and if you don't think like me, I can't associate with you. If you think about your inner circles and your friends and your business colleagues, do you shutter out your customer because they don't feel the way you feel? Or do you just get along because that's the right thing to do? Doing what's right and doing what's wrong seems to be conflicting at NBC. David, what do you got to say?
It's called hypocrisy, Stuart, and it's the media hypocrisy that we've heard 1,002 times. I think since we started ranting over 3 years ago, we've called out the media numerous times on their hypocrisy. And one of the classics is this: they don't agree with Donald Trump. Anybody who sides with Donald Trump is gotta be guilty of something. Ronna McDaniel was hired by NBC and MSNBC. She was supposed to be the so-called conservative voice. And one by one, from crackpot Rachel Maddow to the rest of the lunatics at MSNBC who've literally gone over the edge, the inmates run the asylum, Stuart, at NBC. And their idea is, listen, if we're not cohesive and aligned, then we can't do it. We have to have everybody on the same page. Come on. Politics is not being on the same page, folks. We've seen that time and time again. And we've seen, even when we watch The View, with all due respect to the one token, person on The View who has a conservative voice, it's always one. There's always one. And, there has to be 4 liberals and this, that, and the next thing. Alyssa Farah Griffin has been doing it now since 2022. She's also on CNN. As long as she's anti-Trump, she can be on the panel. But if you're pro-Trump and you're questioning the election of 2020, which Ronna McDaniel questioned, and where the rest of the liberal media continue to say that it's factless, baseless, it's been proven that there were irregularities, which the DNC refuses to get into, which the liberal media doesn't even want to touch, because if they expose a fallacy, which we saw in the 2022 election, there were inconsistencies and irregularities. If you go and you bring that up, then perhaps we are exposing a problem in the election system because it favored the Democrats. It doesn't make a difference, for example, that Hillary Clinton's an election denier. It doesn't make a difference that other Democrats were election deniers. But when it comes to Ronna McDaniel, because she's an election denier, because she's a Trumpist, which is funny because Donald Trump tried to fire the crap out of her. No. And Rachel Maddow goes on air. Now imagine you're the employer and your employee goes on social media and goes, my employer is a putz. My employer screwed up. Well, that's what Rachel Maddow did. She went on the air and called out NBC as, acknowledge that you were wrong. It's a sign of strength. Like, I'm going to take life lessons from this crackpot. Stuart, it's fascinating to see how the left continues to push this one mantra. You're with me or you're my enemy. You're either listening to what I'm delivering or you're wrong and you are my enemy and I hate you and I hope you crush. It's fascinating because when you and I'm sorry people, if you think I do not watch MSNBC, I've read so much of their content because I want to understand, why are they so angry? Why do they hate conservatives so much? This is proof.
Well, let's understand the numbers. Most Republicans, 57%, trust Fox News, the only news organization to receive the majority of the GOP. 1/3 of Republicans, 34%, trust the Wall Street Journal, while 1/3, right, 33%, stay neutral, whether they like any newspaper. 1/4 of Republicans trust one network for news. Okay. You have to understand that there are 12% of Republicans that trust CNN and 12% that trust MSNBC. Conversely, very untrustworthy is 66% for MSNBC, 70% for CNN.
Yeah.
When you understand the numbers, it makes perfect sense. NBC is trying to campaign for Joe Biden. Or let me rephrase this. NBC is trying to prevent a fair and democratic election by controlling the narrative. And the way they operate is they make a statement, they make a story, they steal a soundbite, and with the way the human nature acts, that soundbite becomes a fact, no matter how they like to spin it. There was a network anchor who used to have a show called The Spin Factor. Well, I gotta give the guy credit because it truly describes exactly what main news media streams are doing. And the right's guilty of the same thing. But the big difference is you find on right-wing, which is only one, Fox News.
There are others, but there's nobody as strong as Fox.
There's no one that shows up on the survey.
Newsmax is there, and others.
Right.
But it's a smaller quantity, absolutely.
David, so small it doesn't come up on the main survey. One American News comes up, and I don't know if One American News correlates to that network. I don't know. That would be something for someone to dig into. I just have the statistics. But what I find just constantly annoying, agree with me or you're the enemy. And it's at all costs, no matter what the repercussions are, the apology is this small.
Well, it's not even an apology. It's not even an apology. It's a justification. And I'll give you an example. Mika Brzezinski, who is on Morning Joe, and she's anybody who's a Republican, you could hear how much she hates them. Her comment was, this is her quote, "To be clear, we believe NBC News should seek out conservative Republican voices to provide balance in their election coverage." Listen to the words. It's really important. Balance in their election coverage. Now, she says it should be conservative Republicans, not a person who used her position of power to be anti-democracy election denier. And I'm asking myself, I'm laughing at this statement because it's like, hold on a second. You bring on Hillary Clinton, who continued to cry that the election was stolen from her in 2016. You're okay with that. You're okay as long as it coincides with your opinion. Joy Reid, who's as a racist as can be, is hardcore racist, and I've called her out numerous times on this rant. We welcome Republican voices. The reality is this isn't a difference of opinion. She literally backed an illegal scheme to steal an election in the state of Michigan. What did your president do, people? Every time you have somebody who says, we want to validate, we want to audit, we want to verify, you call them an anti-democratic individual. It's you just believe that the system is perfect and not flawless. You cried in 2000, Stuart, in Florida with Chads. You cried in 2016.
I was a Chad.
I know. You cried in 2016 when Hillary couldn't have lost the election. Every poll said Hillary wins the election. It must be wrong. It must have been stolen. And yet, when the Republicans say it, they're anti-democratic.
Well, you gotta look at the real statistics. Americans view the Weather Channel as the most trusted source of news, David. Like when you think about it, and you know what's following the Weather Channel is BBC.
Look,
and you know, Newsmax goes up on the bottom. I mean, they give Fox News as -14, and they give NBC as +4. Listen, I mean, you want to take odds. I mean, you want to look at that, David. The odds are what? Weather Channel rules?
Listen, it just shows you, but Stuart, we're also seeing that people are less and less consuming news on a traditional way. The so-called TV, radio, newspapers are disappearing. It's going to social. And it's just crazy to just see that the MSNBCs of this world, and Fox to that extent, are grappling at straws to try to keep their viewership. But I'll tell you, I have watched both. I've watched CNN, I've watched Newsmax, I've watched a few of these. And for me, and I got to tell you something, Stuart, I grew up on NBC. It was a staple at 6:30 at my dinner table to watch, NBC News at 6:30. That's what my parents wanted us to watch. And so it's not like I'm some lunatic here. But the bias has never left. It's just gotten worse. And MSNBC proves that, because whenever and however any conservative speaks, they deny them. As long as they criticize Donald Trump, as long as they criticize Ted Cruz, as long as they criticize Marjorie Taylor Greene, as long as they, rip apart the Republican Party, they're not welcome. They're not.
But David, they deny these people on college campuses. They deny them in forums because they don't want another version of the story. And their argument is disinformation and lies. But when all of a sudden the truth comes out about each and every single item that they were wrong, they want to say, oh, it's a big deal.
No, Stuart, let me remind you that MSNBC pushed as hard as anybody the Trump-Russia conspiracy. Let me remind you that the MSNBC buried the Hunter Biden laptop story amongst the other liberal media, and it finally came out that they was wrong. When the two whistleblowers from the IRS came out to talk about what happened with Hunter Biden, MSNBC denied it again and again and again. You're right. NBC is the voice box of the DNC. They should just change the initials to the DNC network and leave it at that. And if all they want is Donna Brazil and the rest of them to go on to their shows and to spew the left, then just call it what you are. Don't lie to people that you're trying to offer a fair and balanced reporting. Just admit that they're left-leaning, liberal-leaning, and they have an agenda, and they're not interested in balanced news. It's a lie. And I'm sorry, there isn't a news channel that's balanced. I don't care who you are. You have an inclination. I will tell you that. Just based Fox, you watch it, majority of the time it's conservative-leaning. I got you. That's fine. And I know what I'm going to watch. But don't tell me that's not the news. Because it is the news. Because MSNBC is giving you the news with, as you called it, their spin. And as a result, you got to know that you're getting left-leaning, left-loving, hardcore. Because if you employ, and with this, Stuart, I'll wrap up. When you tell me you don't want Ronna McDaniel because she's an election denier, but you prefer racists like Joy Reid, or if you prefer liars like Rachel Maddow, and I will call you out, Rachel, you have lied on the damn shows. And if you have people like Joe and Mika, who in the morning would like to see Donald Trump eliminated, tells you a hell of a lot.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. A huge thanks for lending us your ears and spending time with us at the Rant Network. It's been a real pleasure sharing our thoughts, discussions with you. Your support means the world to us, and we're excited to welcome you back for another more engaging, insightful discussion. Remember, we're here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern, unfiltered, unedited. Stay connected with us on social media. It's not a bad thing. Don't hesitate to let us know, PM us questions, topics that you're passionate about. We'll actually discuss it. Your input is invaluable as we continue to build this community of curious minds and open conversations. Thank you once more, David. Thank everyone. Until next time, rendezvous. Keep the rants coming, the conversation flowing.